Diligence, I do it with more than just the purpose of doing it. I do it thoroughly, always correcting my mistakes, and again, that ties in with the first one, to be better than yesterday. And honor, because when you start something, you gotta finish it. And find a purpose behind it. Don't just do it to do it, you gotta do it because you wanna do it. Simple as that.
Annie, what are your values?
My values are honesty, mostly because I like straightforwardness. I think it's the best way to communicate with your feelings or ideas. And also financial stability. For me, like I'm in college, that's what I strive to do. In my personal life, I think financial stability is independence. So that's what I hold close to my heart.
Thank you very much. Malik, what parts of your identity have informed your leadership development?
That's a great question. Being that I come from the Middle Eastern background. I take pride in my Muslim faith. I'm a Palestinian American, and those three things shape my identity. I take pride in my ethnicity, my nationality, and my faith. That gives me a sense of perspective, a sense of culture that allows me to relate to others, especially here on a diverse campus such as FAU. And it gives me, like I said, a sense of perspective that allows me to better empathize with others, and empathy is an important trait in leadership that I'm sure you guys have learned. Absolutely, it gives me a sense of understanding, and it helps me communicate with others in a way.
Thank you. Clayton, who is a leader you admire or aspire to be like, and why?
There's kind of a long list, but I'm gonna pick three, sorry. Two of them are real and dead. One of them is fictional. So I'm still alive, I guess. This is season 2 coming out next year. So the first, a man named Howard Blackburn, who was a Nova Scotian fisherman. To make that story short, basically, dude had to row for 4 days straight with his dead friend in a boat in the middle of winter, not knowing which direction he was going, and lost all of his fingers, a few of his toes, and most of his nose. Then he crossed the Atlantic Ocean more than once, alone, setting records, and was also a very successful businessman in Massachusetts. So I use Blackburn as a paragon for effort and for commitment. The other would be a man named H.M. Tillman, who was a 20th century explorer, mountaineer, and sailor. And this guy crossed oceans again alone. And he was the kind of dude who, no exaggeration, would sail from his home in the UK to like a mountain in Africa, or I don't know, all over the world actually. The Arctic as well, I think he went there by himself. And then climb it, and then go back home, again alone. And so this is a dude who also died at sea doing the things that he loved. And I use Tillman as a paragon, again for commitment, but also for follow through, and for a personal mantra that I have, which is no expectations, no fear. And then the last one is a fictional character named Saitama, who's the lead character in a show called One Punch Man. Yeah, so, which I would highly encourage that all of you watch. It's on Hulu, 12 episodes. It's worth super. Yeah, super worth watching. I see you, bro. He was in my group. And I use Saitama as an example of, again, effort, but also of unlocking the inner potential and of not being willing to take no for an answer. So those are my major ones. There are plenty of other role models, like my family, friends, whatever, but those are the ones that I think of most often.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. So Malik and Annie, and either or could go first. Talk to us a little bit about vulnerability as a leader. So do you believe it is important? And do you believe you can still be vulnerable and be an effective leader?
I think vulnerability is especially important when you're a leader, only because it humanizes you. There are a lot of people that we see out there, and we see them doing like 1,500 different things, and it's difficult to relate because you think, oh my God, like they have no flaws, like I can't get my stuff together, it's hard to schedule this, it's hard to do that. And when you're a leader, it's really important to keep that human side going, because it's a great way, like if someone has a problem or is struggling with something, they're more likely to come to you. And you also look real. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the times when you see people, they just look perfect, that perfect image. You kind of like, they feel more like not that I'm trying to exaggerate, but just to put it in perspective, they feel more like a celebrity or an idol that you just put up there. So by comparison, obviously if you put someone there, you're here. So it's like you feel like you can never become that person. And I'm a Neo, and I'm surrounded by those like amazing student leaders. And this reason why like I keep showing up and I like want to sign up again is because they have qualities that like I want. And because I can see that maybe it's something that I can attain for myself. So it's easy to like be around them and want to be with them and work with them. So vulnerability as a leader, whether you're in an organization or you're in RA or you're becoming management of a certain branch, for example, a store or express or whatever, if you're leading a team and you don't make room for flaws or even like different ideologies and stuff like that, then you're bound to fail as a team.
Absolutely. There's not much I could say after that that hasn't already been covered. But vulnerability is such an important trait to have as a leader, as an individual. And we talked of values. One of my values is authenticity, being genuine with myself and being genuine to others. So if I'm not true to myself, then how can I be true to others? So in that sense, and you touched on it beautifully, we all have flaws. All leaders have flaws, and it's important to note that. Another one of my values is personal growth and development. I can't grow as a person if I do not identify my weaknesses, you know? And I don't even like to say weaknesses. Instead, I'll say points of growth. Those are things that I proactively work on to grow. And identifying where I'm vulnerable and where my flaws may be, it's very important to identify. So absolutely, in leadership, vulnerability is absolutely an important characteristic.
Can I just say one thing about the growth portion? We went through a training in the summer and we discussed the idea of growing. And a good analogy that was used is like you need to see yourself as a tree. Trees are always growing, and if they're not growing, they die. So it's like you need to see yourself like that. Like you're always expanding your branches. You're always learning something new and improving. It's like we're all standing up here. We're not standing here because we got it down. We're still like we're all work in progress. You know what I mean? So like we're speaking from personal experience. So you always have to see yourself as like a work in progress. There's always going to be something to fix. No, trust me, no one is perfect. Okay.
And I was in the same training, just to expand. The tree needs both sunlight, positive experiences, and rain, negative experiences, in order to grow.
Exactly.
You cannot exclude one and have a living being. Right?
Thank you. Hamilton, you touched on this concept of advice, I think during your introduction, and I'm curious, what's the best piece of leadership advice you've ever gotten? And maybe what's one piece of additional advice you would give to the audience today?
I think the best advice that I've ever gotten, especially in this minor, comes from actually you, Katie. So, what do you know? It's, you don't have to be the person that knows everything, but you can be that person who's open to everything. It's all about the size of your sponge. You want to just absorb all this information, because if you're just going on a straight and narrow with what you think is right, or if you're just not going to be open to anyone else, then you're just not going to grow. You're going to stay yourself, and you're not going to grow. And for me personally, I knew that I wanted to get into leadership as soon as I hit college. I was that guy who was always trying to get involved and lead people and urge people to do better. And so I came in with the sense of I know everything. I know everything. I had a big head and everything like that. And then when I joined the minor, I started to document, actually take into account, and actually reflect. And that brings me to my next piece of advice for you all. Take every night that you have, set time aside before you fall asleep to reflect on your day. What happened today? What could I have done better? Every situation that you're in, how could you have done better? That's the best advice that I can give you right there.
external. It's something that you're willing to do, you're excited to do. For example, when I write a poem and I have like great inspiration, I'm inspired to do it, I want to do it. And for leaders, our goal is to inspire people to get onto what or get excited about the thing that we're looking to change or the thing that we're looking to get on board with. For example, we want to change the world, we want to do all these great things, we want to do more community service, we want to do more outreach. Inspire your followers, get them excited to want to do it.
Would anyone on the panel like to add anything?
Just saying the same thing you said, but in different terms. Motivation comes from outside, inspiration comes from within. And literally looking at the term, inspiration is in spirit. That's something within you. That's the unbridled ambition that FAU preaches. That's something within you. You inspire yourself. You inspire yourself. You are inspired to be the best person you can every day. Motivation, you're motivated to go to class, yeah, so you don't fail the class. You're not, motivation it comes from external factors. Inspiration is something within you, in spirit. It's your drive.
Okay. Thanks. So I'm gonna disagree super quick.
Please.
Don't worry, it's not like
What's all about? It's what's all about.
There's not like a stark difference. So my perspective is similar, but just a touch different. So motivation is like a logical imperative, right? So yeah, you do have to pass the class or you have to stay alive. In other cases, the inspiration, I agree, is internal in a lot of ways, but it's the emotional response, right? So it's and it can come from within or without. So the way I view inspiration is it's an internal decision that can use external factors or internal factors. So what I do, just to use it myself as an example, is I watch One Punch Man like once a month, once every other month. I listen to music that I know gets me hyped, and I write positive encouragement once a day, and I try and expose myself to ideas, people, and imagery that I know I will resonate with on an emotional level. And it takes a lot of time, years of practice and exposure to figure out what works consistently, and I rotate it so that I have those things consistently. But I'm inspired always, and I re-inspire, 3 times a week, so that, that comes from an internal decision, I want to, but I am able to use these external factors plus my internal desire to remain inspired and use that inspiration to cover my motivation.
Absolutely.
I just want to say one thing for Clayton is that the inspired thing and telling everyone it's real. Like if you follow him on Snapchat and on Facebook, he actually does that. It sounds like a lot of work, and I'm sure it is, but it's differently style of leadership for everyone. But it's like if you follow him on Snapchat and you follow him on Facebook, he's telling you things that he's actually doing in his personal life. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to give that sticker of
Like
when you buy a product,
Seal of approval?
seal of approval,
Like New York Times
FDA
bestseller.
approved, yeah, so
And then
it's true.
to answer the second half of the question, what is a leader's role? I think a leader a leader is necessary in determining who's motivated to behave, to practice the role. And then a leader is also necessary in providing inspiration as an external factor, but also encouraging individuals to find their own emotional responses. So figuring out what can help people, giving them options, or encouraging them to look into places they haven't considered yet.
If I could just say, Clayton, I have so much respect for the way that you responded to me, and that's what leadership is about, and that's what this is about. And we talk in leadership about disagreeing civilly, right? And I just thank you for the way you responded to me, because it's not about agreeing. And we live in a society today, in our modern society, everything's black and white, everything's like or dislike. There's no middle ground, and that's a terrible thing, and for you to sit up here, so I appreciate that. And that just reminds me of something called cosmopolitanism. It's a philosophical ideology that revolves around conversation. Conversation is the means to everything. We don't ever have to agree. We don't ever have to come to a consensus with one another. It's all about talking to one another, empathizing in a genuine manner, and understanding the other's perspective. You were able to see my perspective, yet respectfully disagree. and I can respectfully disagree with you. And that's all it's about. You know, conversation is a metaphor for engagement and with experience and empathy with others. You know, if we can communicate with one another with judgment aside, with critique aside, and really just hope to learn and understand one another, the possibilities are endless.
Thank you. So at this time, we'd like to open up the floor to any audience questions for the panel.
Jonathan has one over there.
So since the mic cannot travel, if you all could come up over here if you do have a question, and then you can just step up to the mic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Hey guys, thanks for all joining us today. Quick question for MJ, if you're curious, because I know you and have relations with you.
Absolutely, sure.
Anybody else who wants to answer, feel free. But I wanted to know what your biggest struggle is overcoming for leadership, and how that has shaped your leadership experience here at FAU.
I'll talk about two things. Jake, thank you for the question. The two biggest things I struggle with, they're completely separate, but one is my confidence. You know, I think that's something we all struggle with, insecurity versus confidence. You know, it's a spectrum, and it's constantly fluctuating daily, you know? And I can say honestly that that's something that I struggle with, but through leadership, through proactive reflection, like Hamilton said up here, journaling every night, you know, having that self-awareness, understanding yourself better, and learning from that, growing, and developing as an individual, I mean, it just boosts my confidence tremendously. So, although I struggle with that, I don't dwell on it, because I know that I can make the right steps to change that. Another thing I struggle with, and Dr. King touched on it when he spoke of, we live in a very divisive era. Our generation is, you know, we're going through stuff that other generations have never seen, you know. And it's very fragile and delicate and tender time in our society. And being that I come from the Muslim background and I'm a Palestinian American, some people, and it's terrible to say, but some people have preconceived notions about me and assumptions about me before even meeting me. You know, that's my identity, but it doesn't define me. Leaders are defined by their character, you know? And I only ask that people judge me on that, and that's something that's hard to change. You can't change what others' perception of you is, but I know myself. So.
I can say that my biggest struggle could also be my confidence. Yeah, when you're in certain leadership roles, people expect you to, I guess, be that ideal leader. And sometimes I don't feel like I am that leader. I have doubts within myself, and a lot of times I feel like I can't do it, and I don't have the answers. But, you know, in learning and taking different leadership courses, at the end of the day, a good leader should be someone who asks for help, who's not afraid to ask someone who may know more than you for help, and it's okay. So building my confidence in leadership has been a struggle, but I'm getting there. I'm almost there.
I mean, like you said, because for me, mostly, and I think that probably is the same for a lot of people that are around my age, is eliminating the non-essentials of my life. Because, like, as a leader, you always want to make sure you look good, like your resume is perfect, so you qualify for those other opportunities and you're doing other things. But like what's been really hard is focusing on what actually matters. And when you focus on what matters, then the opportunities, like that FOMO you have, disappears. It's hard. Like it's still, like I'm still working on it. Like it's not like I got it down, but eliminating the non-essential is probably one of the most difficult, is the most difficult challenge I've had as like a leader.
This is for anybody, whoever wants to answer it. As a leader, what is your most difficult situation you've had to deal with, and what is the most important thing you learned from it?
I'll go ahead and take that. Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of difficulties in my life. You can tell. So I think the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I'm a member of the Greek organization, and I was on the standards committee, and the standards committee was responsible for, making sure everybody's, up to the high standards of the actual organization itself, and making sure no one's out of line, that kind of deal, So there came a new member, and this is a kid who, I brought through the recruitment, the entire recruitment with him, and he ended up getting a bid from my organization. And this is a kid who I've known since, before we could even walk. Semester grades come out at the end of the semester, and it was not up to par. It was actually so low that per the national bylaws of the organization, we had to let him go. And remember now, it's somebody who I've known since before I could walk, who is now my actual brother, and I have to let him go. I'm on the board that has to let him go. I have to look him in the eyes and tell him, you gotta go. So, what did I have to do? So, of course, I brought it up to the committee. What are we gonna do about this? This guy's obviously a stud. He just, he's taking hard classes. He's an engineering major, this and that. And at the end of the day, we had to come to the right decision, not for just this individual, for the organization. Are we gonna stay true to what we believe in, or are we gonna let our falters falter? And we ended up deciding that, as much as it hurts, you gotta stay true to something that's bigger than yourself, to the organization. So we had to let him go. And he was really upset with me. He was really upset with me, saying, you didn't fight for me, this and that, even though I did. And whether he knew that or not, it didn't matter. I told him, look, with everything, that you went through in your new member process and the signing of the membership agreement, right now I would be a bad brother if I didn't let you go, because you have your issues that are going on with your grades, and that's the most important thing. So the point of it all is, at some point, there's got to be a decision made where you're going to put the friendship aside and you're going to do the job that you were appointed to do. I was a member of the standards committee, and I had to make sure that I did my job, what the fraternity elected me to do, and I did just that. Because if you let one slide, there's going to be more that follow, 110%. So you just got to stay true to whatever is bigger than yourself.
Thank you, Hamilton. And some snaps for the panel so far, right? Some good stuff, thank you. Encouraging your hearts as we go, friends. So we are going to hear from the 4 questions that we have remaining, and we're just going to ask that one of you respond per question, okay? Thank you.
Anyone can answer this question, but the question is, as a leader, sometimes you have strong personalities, and do you believe that it's okay, like you can work, or how do you work with some other leaders that have strong personalities? Does someone have to submit, or can that work?
Submit as in, can you
like strong personalities, like you.
Like alpha and beta? Kind of?
Yes, like very strong.
125% you got to give in. You do. And I'm sorry to take this question from you guys. I don't know if that's So, the answer is yes. You do have to give in. And for those of you that do know me, yeah, I'm kind of a wacko with my personality too. I have a big personality, and people all the time have difficulties dealing with me too. I get upset because they don't give in. But at the same time, I'm the one who sometimes looks in the mirror and says, during my reflection time, like I said, I should have given in there. I'm always the guy who's, trying to be that alpha and always trying to make the decisions based upon, what everybody's expecting of the entire group. And, when you have somebody else who's trying to make a better decision, who has a big personality, at some point you have to give in. You do, because, it's really hard to swallow, but you have to, because it's all a part of improving as a leader. You give in so that way you can see him strive, and then piece by piece, you're going to work together to figure out how you can improve his style and your style as well.
Hi, this is a question for Andy. What do you think is the biggest challenge that leaders face today?
That leaders face today? I don't want to generalize, because everyone has their own issues, and facets. So, like I don't want to give like a general thing, but like only from like I can only speak from my perspective, so that's what I'm going to speak from. At least what I've noticed in my life and what I've been struggling is like choices, and which is why I say like eliminating the non-essentials of my life is very important. And like where I live, not where I live, like I live here in the United States, duh. So it's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but if you go shopping for cereal, there's so many of them. Like I'm very indecisive. And when I make a decision, I want to make sure I get like the best of the best. Like if I'm buying a camera, I'm going to do like the research. I'm going on Best Buy, watch those YouTube videos, you know, and then at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys read, it's an article called The Paradox of Choices, and it says like at a certain point when you get so many choices, you end up like feeling dissatisfied or not making a decision, and another party comes in and does this choice for you. So for, at least as a leader, I think there are so many routes, like philosophies to choose from, or organizations to choose from, or even like style to lead, you know, when you talk about this different paradox. And so I think making the decisions to what route is the best route and making sure that it's the best path to take a certain organization or a certain decision is the most difficult part of the process for me. Yeah, was that helpful? Yes. If it wasn't, it's okay, you can say that.
This question is for anyone can answer it. What initiative would you implement on the campus if you were the president of FAU for the student body?
I'll answer that question. Only because I feel like at FAU we lack an academic community. Like maybe that, like I feel like that's what I would improve. Not that I'm running for student body president, I'm not. But I would, like that's what I would request for at least. I took one class last semester, INR theory, and it was the first class I took at FAU where we made a group of our own, like a study group of our own, and we got to know the students like outside the classroom, and we studied together. And I feel like if we had that in more departments, students would be more successful at FAU. That's what I would push for.
So I've been having this debate with some of my friends recently about are leaders born or are leaders made? So do you believe that leaders are born, leaders are made, or if it's a combination, what percentage do you put on?
So this is a great question to end the panel with, just because this is the first thing you learn in leadership. This is the first thing on the PowerPoint. It's the first thing the professor says. It's the first thing on the board. It's the first thing you learn. And those of you who are taking LDR 2010 right now know that. So leaders are born, not made. That's a myth. That's a myth. Leaders are developed through their experiences. They're molded through their experiences in life, through reflection and proactive development and progression. That's how a leader is made. No one comes out the womb with innate qualities that makes them a leader. That's not true. Through their experiences, leaders are made. And Haley touched on it with her tremendous keynote speech. Leadership is about action, not position. Leadership is not about titles, authority, power. No, it's about none of that. Leadership is an ever-evolving relational process that's mutually beneficial for everybody involved. And all of us should leave here remembering that, if nothing else.
Hold on.